Hey everyone, it's Michael and
Matt
from Bullion Now, bullionnow.com.au, bringing you absolutely none of the bars and coins we're about to show you. And why would that be?
Well, we've got some fakes here today, Michael.
That's right. We're doing, a lot of you will probably remember, and if you haven't seen it, we'll put a link above our heads right now to a fake video we did 12, 18 months ago. It's received well over 500,000 views. It's been a very popular video. We highlighted the differences in Perth Mint minted bar fakes, and today we're going to look at another chunk of various fakes, some of which are disturbingly accurate. So while we're panning in there, see if you can maybe freeze the video and have a bit of a look and see if you can pick out some of the fakes straight away. Some of them are incredibly obvious. Some of them are suspiciously not, or worryingly not obvious. So, what are your thoughts on it, Matt?
I think it is interesting to note that some of those ones that are very obvious, I think you can sometimes be fooled by, in a batch, if there are a few very obvious fakes, you pluck those out and you think, okay, the rest must be all legit. Yeah. But it's often a case of where there's smoke, there's fire. So anytime you see something that looks a little suspicious or a little not quite above board, refer it to the experts or a professional is my number one piece of advice. Don't roll the dice, or particularly when there's large sums of currency involved. You don't want to be spending without your eyes wide open, so to speak.
Why would people buy fake? Well,
as the saying goes, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
And I think often you can get caught up in the hype of the deal. So you'll see those listings of, oh, I've got this deceased estate and I don't know anything about gold or rare coins, but here's a whole lump of gold bars, and you think, I know a little bit about this. I'm going to get a great deal here. Yeah. And you go, and then more often than not, with those types of transactions, you can get burned.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Videos like this I find to be incredibly valuable as a bit of a learning resource.
So why don't we take a bit of a look, and we might start off over on the side I'm sitting because it's easiest with these minted bars. Now, we'll start off with, this one's actually a real one, the one in the casing, and I'm not taking it out of the casing today. We have done that before in previous videos, but this is the real one. This is one that came in, and for all intents and purposes, it looks actually quite real. The pattern is correct, the wording is correct, the lettering, the typeset is all correct. It's outside of its plastic case, so you would expect it to show this level of toning and tarnish that you can see here. But the one thing that gives it away, they've got the size right, as in the face size. But to do that and have it approximately the correct weight, because if we weigh it, I don't know if the camera can move around, 1 ounce you should see at about 31.1, so it's actually only a bit over half a gram out. But to get that, if they've got the right size of it, then the only other way they can do it is to actually increase the thickness. And you'll actually see there, if we compare the two, it's probably 2 to 3 times thicker than what a normal bar should be. If we run it under the XRF, just quickly, you'll actually see that it will be a large component of copper. These things are always... Why aren't you playing ball with me?
Swipe it.
Oh, yeah, it's across the road. All right, there we go. Straight. How many here? Yeah.
Student becomes the teacher.
There we go. Alrighty, so if we zap it, you can see there straight away it's coming up with gold coating possible. It has the tiniest amount of gold, 1.4%, and then zinc, and it's always copper because copper, relatively speaking, is cheap, and then a little bit of nickel. So you can see there, if you'd paid $100 less than spot for that one, you've just paid for some incredibly expensive copper.
What if I don't have an XRF, Michael?
Well, that's why we're kind of saying maybe have a look at things like thickness, because invariably these things are made out of copper. Copper not being so dense, to get the weight correct, you've got to go for that thickness, the extra thickness on them.
Could I come into Bullion Now and use your XRF?
There's a leading question. Absolutely you could. And look, if you've got a good relationship with your bullion dealer, the chances are, if you take something in, the chances are they're going to test it for you with their XRF. Now, if they don't have an XRF, that's a completely different story, and we might touch on that a little bit later. We also included, and I was really pleased when it came in. That sounds terrible. But we had a spate of these Canadian ones 3 to 6 months ago coming through or coming into the store. They are incredibly good. Again, they're too thick if you look down the side. But if you've got one of these in isolation, the typeset's right, the look about it's right, it's the right colour, the packaging's correct, that's a really good imitation or fake bar. And taken by itself, you'd absolutely would be fooled by it.
I think that's a good point that you were also touching on there, Michael, is the importance of not taking anything at face value. So if you see blister packaging, that does not immediately definitively conclude that something is genuine as well.
I've just noticed that the Canadian ones have this, I think this is meant to be a maple, but whatever this is in the middle here, this one's always different to all the ones on the outside. And they've actually got that spot on as well. So the bar, for all intents and purposes, is genuine, but it's not. So very easy to be fooled by them. Do you want to grab one and go through it, mate?
Absolutely. Let's have a look at the Krugerrand. This one stood out to me for a couple of reasons. First and foremost is that mirror type finish, which you would not expect to see on a standard Krugerrand. The other thing being the font. So when you're dealing with these types of products, as we are on a regular basis, you grow accustomed to seeing the particular fonts that the mints produce. And this, it's odd to say that this is way off, but I think to any of the guys that work here, you would take one look at this and say there is no chance that that is genuine. You then look at the portrait of Paul Kruger, and the detail on it is just very odd. They've almost gone
overboard
with the amount of detail that they've tried to put in there. So, you know, looking at his hairline and things like that, it just is very odd, which leads me to the point of, if something seems a little odd, I would go with your gut and steer clear of the deal, unless you have access to an XRF or you're in a reputable business doing your transaction.
And that's something you just said then is part of the problem, is we handle them every day. So, and people watching this video, if they handle these things every day and they've got something to compare them to, some of these are fairly obvious. But if this is the first one of that type you're seeing, if it's, you know, you're not completely familiar with gold, or, you know, it's fairly early on in your stacking career, it's really easy to be fooled by some of these, even though they're blinking obvious. The other one that I kind of wanted to touch on, you wanted over here, did you? No? Oh, sorry, Joe, I thought you were driving for something. So the other one I was going for here is a little bit on from the Krugerrand. If we look at this one that's actually been slabbed, it's obviously not an Australian kangaroo. It's too big. It's the wrong everything, really, if you compare it to the one that's right next to it. This is a 2014, this is a 2015. But also down to the slabbing of it. You know, there are really two main slabbing companies. That's PCGS and
NGC.
NGC, yeah, that's right. So this one's been done by, I think is it PCCG? Yeah. Which, with just some rudimentary research, no one's ever really heard of PCCB, I think it is.
Yep.
And if you go onto Google, you can actually buy these slabs yourself. So if you can buy them yourself, and I mean empty ones that you can fill yourself, the chances of this being a fake are pretty darn high. You'll also find with slab coins, now I don't know if people know what slabbed is. Actually, Matt, do you want to give us a burst on what a slabbed coin is?
Yeah, sure. So there are a number of reasons why people choose to get their coins, predominantly collectible coins, put into these slabs. It's to get the peace of mind of having a third party grade and authenticate your item. Typically you'll see a number attributed to them as well. So it's a grading system referred to as the Sheldon scale, which will give your coin a grade from 1 to 70, 70 being the highest. And yeah, it's a very, very popular service in the collecting community.
quite often each one's also given a serial number.
Yeah.
So with your main companies, like we said, PCGS, NGC, you can actually research that number and it will actually bring up your specific coin. It's very much probably the predecessor to what we term these days, if you're up with the crypto, to the NFT, where it's identifiable for one. So it's very much, you can research that coin, you can research that bar that's been slabbed. And yes, sure, they can actually counterfeit that, and it has been known to happen, but in the vast majority of cases, if you can find out the detail on that coin with that number, the chances are that it's going to be real. Why don't we move on to the one that scares me most?
Yeah, absolutely. This raised my eyebrows through the roof as well when I saw this.
So these 4 coins that are sitting here, pause the video here, have a close look at them, see if you can pick out which one is the fakes, or which ones are the fakes, and which ones are the real. And you've got a 50-50 chance because there's 2 of each. But I have to say, particularly with the Kookaburra, at first glance, I can't tell the difference. Now, I'm hoping I remember the difference so I don't embarrass myself in a minute, but the detail on it is fantastic. The patterning is correct. The typeset is correct. Even the colour, I would say, or the toning is more correct on the fake than what I'd expect on the genuine. And if that hasn't given it away, you'll actually find that this one here, which has just got that slight amount of tone on it, is actually the fake. And we'll put it under the XRF in a second. But for all intents and purposes, it looks correct. And I'd reckon, I'll flip them over so you can see the other side, but then I'm going to throw them on the scales, and you'll actually find that they're not exact, but gee, they're close. And it's close enough that if I picked one up, I would not pick the difference, I don't think, particularly as they're encapsulated. So if we put we'll put the real one on the scales first. So 36.5, that's about what you'd expect. So it's 31.1 for the coin and then about another 5 grams for the capsule. If I put this one on here, it's very, very close. It's within a gram. And so that's pretty amazing. But if I throw it onto, and sorry, let me go back a stage, because they're both encapsulated, there's no real difference in thickness with them. And if we throw it onto the XRF, you'll actually see there it's coming up as just a small amount of silver, which will be the covering on the outside, and then it's your standard zinc, copper and nickel, which is what we'd expect to see.
I think one of the more concerning realities of this example as well is that it's not just something that is prevalent in gold. I think generally when you think of fakes or faking something, you think high value, high premium items.
Yeah.
The fact that this can happen even on the comparatively more accessible coins is certainly, well, hopefully a bit of a wake-up call to people that are just going out on a limb and buying things from everywhere and anywhere. The risk is real, even at the comparatively lower end of the pricing spectrum.
Yeah, and that's not to say that every transaction that you see over the internet, on a forum, those types of things is dodgy, because there's a lot of collectors out there that, you know, they've probably bought themselves a box of 2015 Kookaburras and they want to sell off a chunk to try and cover their original purchase price. You can't buy them in bullion dealers. We haven't stocked the 2015 for ages because you can't get it. So, you know, there are some legitimate transactions out there, but you've got to be really careful. And I would strongly suggest at least swinging past your local bullion dealer and getting your purchase tested before you actually pay for it. We've also got these gold bars in the corner. Now, these I find quite disturbing as well. Not that their accuracy is great when you know how to tell the difference, but their Perth Mint stamps on them are good enough. If you're just looking at this in a photo or something along those sort of lines, I don't think I would, from a picture, I don't think I'd be able to tell the difference.
Particularly when there's lighting involved, right? You hit it in the right light with a bit of a sheen, and away you go.
Now, the two on the left are the genuines. The two on the right are the fakes. Now, one of them is fairly obviously fake, and I'm not sure if the light is picking it up correctly, but the bottom one on the right-hand side there, its colouring is wrong. It's just, it's very, I don't know, did
It's
you call
almost
that
like
yellow?
a matte finish. Like
Yeah.
it just doesn't have that kind of sheen to it that you would expect from the Perth mint.
Yeah, but the other one above it, that one there, has actually been, we suspect, and we're going to run it under the XRF in a second, but we suspect it's been gold plated. So now we're starting to get into the realms of, well, it's going to be the right colour because it's plated. It's almost the right dimensions. It's slightly out. It's a little bit squashed, a little bit longer than normal, but it's not that far out in dimension wise, which makes me instantly suspicious because its weight's going to be out. And if I put this one, actually I'll put a real one on. That's the real one, so that's what you'd expect to see, 31.1 grams, which is about an ounce, well, just over the ounce. If we take that one off, and put the fake on, it's about a third of that. So unlike the minted bars we showed right back at the start, this one's almost the right dimensions, but because it's the right dimensions, it doesn't have the right density, therefore it's going to be too light. Shall we run them under the XRF?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm just going to space them out a little bit. So we'll test I'm sure the top one is going to show small amounts of gold. Yeah, there you go. So gold plated or coating possible. You can see small amounts of gold there, 4%. That's actually fairly high for a gold plating. And then your standard zinc, copper and nickel. Whereas if we zap the real thing, you can see there AU being gold and then 4 nines, which is exactly what you'd expect to see. All right, any others you want to touch on, mate?
I suppose we'll finish off with the Crocs. I don't think we did the saltwater Crocs.
No, we didn't.
And at a glance, I'll tell you what, when you told me we were doing this video, not having a deep background in the Bullion series, my original thought was this one looks a little off. You know, that one stuck out of the batch. So you would be forgiven if you paused originally at these first 4 and said, well, that's clearly the odd one out, so that's the fake.
Yeah,
you would be mistaken.
It certainly doesn't have the right toning when you compare the shine, and I know I've gone for a different type, but the shine of the real Kookaburra next to it, you'd go, oh, well, you know, definitely that's out. That shine is far more like that mirror finish there. But in actual fact, if we put them under the XRF, you'll actually find this is the fake and that's the real. Should we zap them?
Absolutely.
So the top one there. Again, so you can see that we're getting the standard zinc, copper, nickel. Whereas if we go down to the real one, you know, the thickness of the capsule here might throw this a little bit, but let's see what happens. Yeah. So look, again, when you've got capsules involved, particularly depending on how thick they are, sometimes the XRF can get itself a little bit confused. If I was testing this with a customer, we'd probably suggest opening it just to prove it. But look, it's 99.7% silver and almost 0.3% palladium. If you manage to get palladium in there, like that's worth far more than your silver anyway. So you really wouldn't be that stressed. But to check it, to really get into its purity, if you wanted to see it was 4 nines, you'd crack open the capsule. Wearing gloves, of course, which I'm
absolutely
famous for not wearing at different times. So look, I guess in summary, a lot of this comes back to doing transactions with people that you can trust, whether that be a private transaction. You know, you're on a forum, you either know the person on the forum because you've dealt with them before, or they've got some feedback on there. And most forums these days do a bit of a rating system on the side. People that have done previous transactions with them can leave feedback on, yes, this guy's legit, no, this guy's not. So, you know, check those feedbacks. Make contact with someone that you know to say, hey, have you dealt with this person before? Are they any good? Or obviously, and of course there's a little bit of bias here, but deal through a reputable bullion dealer or coin dealer in your local area. If you're going to use a bullion dealer, I harp on this so much, but I can't believe that there's bullion dealers that don't have an XRF or something very similar to that. There are a few other things that you can use, but the XRF is a cheap, relatively speaking. I mean, they cost about 30 grand a pop, but they're an easy, non-destructive way to quickly test an item and get a fair idea if it's real or not. And if your bullion dealer doesn't have one, or has one but won't show you the results of it, I'm trying to say go elsewhere without saying go elsewhere, but go elsewhere. Like, seriously, why would you not go elsewhere? You know, they should have it. If they're serious about their trade and their industry, you know, they've got to have one. It's like employing a plumber that doesn't have, you know, pipe wrenches and that sort of stuff. It's just insanity. So, you know, go to a bullion dealer that's got one and is prepared to use it in front of you. And in fact, if you live in the Melbourne area or you're visiting the Melbourne area and you've got one that you're just, I'm not sure if this is real or not, bring it in. We're more than happy to test them for you with their XRF right in front of you on the spot. Sure, if there's a queue out the door, yeah, you're going to have to wait till the paying customers have gone through. But once we've cleared the paying customers, or alternatively, you are a paying customer and you've got to the front of the queue and you just want one or two items tested, we are more than happy to test them. In fact, you know, we'd far rather do that. And if you're buying an item from us, don't be shy. Say, hey, any chance you could whack that under the XRF? Because we don't want you going home going, I wonder, for the next 20 years. You know, you want to be sure that you've bought what you've actually bought. So don't be frightened. Don't be shy. Say, can I check this out under the XRF? You want to add anything to that, mate?
The only other thing I would add is often, if a deal seems too good to be true, it often is. Yeah. I've said it, I'll harp on about it, but it is a common pain point for me when helping people out who have been burned in the past. So just be careful.
Let me ask you a really quick question because we've gone on long enough.
Yeah.
Is there a place for fakes?
Yes. In a fake box, clearly marked fake, that you use as a comparative thing. Yeah. And other than that,
What about a 1930 penny fake?
Yeah, a space filler in an album. So
Yeah.
It looks like a full collection, but you know that it's not genuine.
Yes. Yeah.
Right in your little Dance Go album, fake.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. Because, you know, you've got your penny collection and what's a 1930 penny worth? You know, just an average one.
25, 30 grand?
Yeah. So you don't want to drop 25k to complete your collection when you can buy one for, I don't know, what's a fake worth? $20 on eBay?
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
So you can pay $20 and you can complete your collection. So it looks complete until you've saved up your 25k to get the real deal. Happy with that?
Absolutely. Good stuff.
All right. I know we always say this for advertising purposes, but like, share and subscribe. Really share this one around because we need people to know that the fakes are out there. We need people to know that they can tell the difference and that there are certain ways that you can pick these things up, because I couldn't tell you the number of people that have said to me in times gone by, yeah, you know, I bought a coin or I bought a bar and it turned out to be a fake and I got burnt, so I never kind of continued with my stacking or collecting career, and that's really, really sad. So share this one around, make sure everyone, as many people as you can, actually see this. That's it for now. We'll talk again soon. See ya.
Thanks.